The alarm bells rang through the Zephyrian council chambers like a death song. Commander Veltar rushed through the crystal corridors, his forearms moving quickly as he carried data tablets filled with sensor readings. The emergency meeting had been called only minutes ago, but already the great hall buzzed with worried voices from 14 different species. The massive viewing screen at the center of the chamber showed a star map of the outer rim. Red dots marked the approaching fleet moving steadily toward their territory. Veltar had studied these readings for hours, but they still made no sense. "Report, Commander," spoke High Counselor Zarath, her blue skin shimmering with stress patterns. Around her, representatives from across the galaxy leaned forward in their seats. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few looked almost plant-like, but all shared the same expression of fear. Veltar activated his holographic display. The unknown ships appeared in the air above them, rotating slowly so everyone could see. The fleet consists of 27 vessels. They emerged from dark space 6 hours ago and are heading directly for our borders. Counselor Thexmo, a creature that looked like a walking tree, rustled his leaves nervously. "What species built these ships? I have never seen designs like this." "That is the problem," Veltar replied. "These ships do not match any known construction in our databases. Look at the materials." He zoomed in on the hull of the largest vessel. Pure metal construction. No bio-grown components, no living materials at all. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Every advanced species in the galaxy had learned to grow their ships from living matter centuries ago. Metal ships were primitive, something only newly spacefaring races might use. "The propulsion systems are equally strange," Veltar continued. "Simple fusion drives, no quantum fold technology, no dimensional shifters. They are using methods we abandoned thousands of years ago." High Counselor Zarath frowned. "How do they travel between stars with such basic technology?" "They appear to use something called jump gates," Veltar said, reading from his tablet. "Fixed points in space that allow faster-than-light travel. Very crude, but it works." The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Jump gates were considered ancient technology, like using stone tools when laser cutters were available. What kind of species would still rely on such methods? "There is more," Veltar said, raising his voice. "Their weapons are completely kinetic. Metal projectiles fired at high speed. No energy weapons, no plasma cannons, no reality warpers, just bullets." Counselor Mirison, whose species looked like floating jellyfish, pulsed with disbelief. "Bullets? Like the chemical-propelled metal, slugs from our history texts. How can such weapons be effective in space combat?" Before Veltar could answer, the communication officer rushed into the chamber. "High Counselor, the unknown fleet is broadcasting a message." The main screen shifted to show a transmission. A creature appeared that made several council members step back in surprise. It stood on 2 legs like some species, but its body was thick and muscular. Its skin was pale pink and hair grew from the top of its head. Most disturbing were its eyes, small, forward-facing like a predator's. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable," the creature said. Its voice was strong and direct. "We represent the human species and the Earth Colonial Union. We come seeking alliance against the creatures you call devourers." Silence filled the chamber. The creature, the human, stood straight with confidence that seemed natural to it. Behind her, more humans moved around what appeared to be their command center. They all had the same predatory eyes and muscular build. "We have been tracking the Devourer fleet for 57 days, Captain Chen continued. "Our calculations show they will reach your territory in approximately 72 hours. We propose a joint defense of your worlds." The transmission ended, leaving the council in shocked silence. High Counselor Zarath was the first to speak. "Devourers," she whispered. The word sent chills through every being present. The Devourers were the galaxy's nightmare. For 3,000 years they had swept through star systems like a plague. They consumed everything, planets, stars, entire civilizations, and converted the matter into more of themselves. 13 species had fallen to them completely. Whole systems had been stripped bare. No species fights the Devourers, said Counselor Thexmo. The only strategy is to evacuate and hope they lose interest. But these humans speak of joint defense. Miracen pulsed. They want to fight them. Veltar checked his readings again. The human fleet is moving to intercept the Devourer advance. They are not running away. Impossible, Zareth said. They must not understand what Devourers are. No one survives contact with them. The tactical officer, a spider-like being named Crixta, scuttled forward. High Counselor, I have analyzed the human ships more carefully. Their designs are primitive, yes, but they are clearly built for combat. Heavy armor plating. Multiple weapon systems. These vessels are warships. Warships, Zareth repeated. The concept was almost foreign. Most galactic species built their fleets for exploration, trade, and evacuation. Combat was usually a last resort, fought at long range with precision strikes. The humans also carry what appear to be small fighter craft, Crixta continued, and their largest ships have launch bays that could hold thousands of individuals. Invasion ships, whispered Counselor Dextra, a crystalline being whose form sparkled with anxiety. They build ships to carry armies. The implications hung in the air. These humans, with their primitive technology and predatory appearance, built fleets designed for war. They carried armies through space and planned to fight the unstoppable Devourers. We should warn them, Miracen said. They clearly do not understand the threat. Devourers cannot be defeated by conventional weapons. What if they are right? Asked a quiet voice. Everyone turned to look at Counselor Yithra, whose species had been the most recent to lose worlds to the Devourers. What if there is a way to fight them? Impossible, Zareth said firmly. 13 civilizations have tried. All failed. The Devourers adapt to every weapon, every strategy. They learn from each encounter and become stronger. But has anyone tried crude weapons? Yithra pressed. Has anyone used metal bullets and fusion drives against them? Maybe the Devourers have never encountered such primitive technology. The chamber fell silent as the Council considered this. For thousands of years, galactic warfare had followed predictable patterns. Energy weapons, long-range engagements, sophisticated tactics. The humans offered something completely different. There is another message coming in, the communication officer announced. The screen lit up again. This time, Captain Chen appeared alongside other humans, including what looked like military officers. Their uniforms were simple but practical, and every one of them carried themselves like a soldier. To the Galactic Council, Chen began, we know you are listening. We know about your evacuation protocols and your defensive strategies. We have studied the Devourer attacks on your worlds. She leaned forward, and her predatory eyes seemed to look directly at each council member. The time for running is over. Humanity has spent 50 years preparing for this moment. We did not travel across the galaxy to hide behind defensive positions. We came here to end the Devourer threat permanently. The transmission showed star charts and tactical displays. Human officers pointed to various locations while Chen continued. In 72 hours, the Devourers will enter the Kepler 442 system. 4 billion Zephyrian colonists live there. We propose to make our stand at Kepler 442, not to evacuate it, but to defend it. The screen went dark, leaving the council in stunned silence. Captain Chen's words echoed through the chamber. End the Devourer threat permanently. High Counselor Zarath looked around at her fellow council members. Fear and hope warred in their expressions. These humans offered something that had been lost. For millennia, the possibility of victory. Contact the human fleet, she said finally. Tell them we will meet to discuss their proposal. As the council session ended, Veltar remained in the chamber staring at the tactical display. The human fleet continued its steady approach toward Devourer space. 27 primitive ships against an enemy that had consumed star systems. Either humanity would learn why 13 civilizations had fallen to the Devourers, or the galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone was willing to fight back. The docking bay of the Zephyrian flagship Harmony's Edge had been prepared for formal first contact. Soft lighting created a peaceful atmosphere, and the air was filled with calming scents from a dozen different worlds. Representatives from all major species stood in ceremonial robes, ready to welcome these mysterious humans. When the human shuttle docked, Commander Veltar watched the airlock with nervous anticipation. The door opened with a soft hiss and Captain Sarah Chen stepped through. The effect was immediate. Several Zephyrian guards took an unconscious step backward. Chen was not particularly tall by human standards, but her presence filled the room. Her muscles moved under her uniform like coiled steel springs. Her eyes swept the assembled aliens with the intensity of a hunter studying prey. Behind her came 6 other humans. Each one carried themselves with the same controlled power. Their movements were precise but relaxed, like predators comfortable in any environment. The diplomatic party looked more like a military strike team. "Welcome aboard the Harmony's Edge," High Counselor Zarath said, her voice carefully controlled. "We are honored by this first contact between our species." Captain Chen stepped forward and offered a gesture that seemed to be a greeting, extending her right hand. When Zarath hesitantly reached out with one of her forearms, Chen grasped it firmly. The counselor's eyes widened at the strength in that grip. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Chen said. "I know our arrival has raised questions." "Indeed," Zarath replied, leading the group toward the conference chamber. "Your technology, your ship designs, your apparent willingness to engage the Devourers, it all seems quite unusual." As they walked through the corridors, the humans looked around with obvious interest. Chen's companion, who had introduced himself as Colonel Marcus Webb, studied the bio-grown walls and living light sources. "Fascinating construction," Webb said. "Your ships are actually alive?" "Partially," explained Counselor Thexmo. "We learned long ago that living materials are superior to crude metals. They heal themselves, adapt to threats, and integrate with our consciousness." The humans exchanged glances. Chen smiled in a way that made several aliens uncomfortable. "Different approaches," she said simply. The conference chamber was a masterpiece of galactic engineering. The walls could display any environment, currently showing a peaceful garden world. The table was grown from a single massive crystal, shaped to accommodate beings of many different physiologies. As everyone took their seats, Veltar noticed something odd. The humans sat differently from everyone else, while the galactic species arranged themselves for comfort and easy conversation. The humans positioned themselves to watch all entrances and exits. Even in this peaceful setting, they maintained tactical awareness. "Now," Zarath began, "we must discuss the Devourer threat. Perhaps you do not fully understand what you propose to fight." Chen leaned forward. "We have studied them for 50 years. We know they consume matter and convert it to their own use. We know they adapt to energy weapons and conventional tactics. We know 13 civilizations have fallen to them." "Then you understand why we evacuate rather than fight," said Counselor Miracen. "Resistance is futile." "No," Chen said firmly. "Resistance is required." The statement hung in the air. Colonel Webb activated a portable display device, showing holographic images above the table. The scenes were horrifying. Devourer attacks recorded by fleeing ships. Planets stripped bare, their matter transformed into twisted biomechanical constructs. "These recordings are from Earth's deep space monitoring stations," Webb explained. "We have observed 73 Devourer attacks over the past 5 decades. "You watched our worlds burn?" Zarath asked, her skin darkening with anger. "We learned," Chen replied without apology. "Every attack taught us something new about their tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns." She stood up, her full height making her tower over most of the seated aliens. "While you ran, we prepared. We studied. We built ships and trained soldiers specifically to fight this enemy." "Impossible," said Counselor Dexra. "No weapons can harm them. They adapt to every attack." Chen's smile became predatory. "They have never encountered human weapons. They have never faced human tactics. Most importantly, they have never fought an enemy that refuses to retreat." Webb changed the display to show human military footage. Soldiers in powered armor moved through what looked like hostile environments. They fought with determination that bordered on madness, never giving ground even when outnumbered. Your species fights differently than ours, Dexmo observed. You seem to enjoy combat. We are good at it, Chen said. Humans evolved on a death world. Our home planet would kill most of you within hours. The casual statement shocked the assembled aliens. Webb brought up a display showing Earth's specifications. Gravity nearly twice galactic standard, he explained. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most species. Weather systems that regularly produce storms capable of leveling cities. An ecosystem where almost everything is trying to eat everything else. Mirison pulsed with disbelief. How do you survive in such conditions? We thrived, Chen said. We became the apex predators of our world. We learned to hunt, to fight, to never give up. When we reached space, we brought those lessons with us. The display showed human history, wars, struggles, the constant battle for survival, but also incredible achievements, moments when humans had overcome impossible odds through sheer determination. You make war sound like a virtue, Zareth said. War is a tool, Chen replied. Like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. We choose to use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Colonel Webb stood up and walked to the chamber's viewing port. Outside, both human and alien ships moved through space together. The contrast was striking. Sleek, living alien vessels alongside the angular metal human warships. The Devourers will reach Kepler 4042 in 68 hours, he said. 4 billion Zephyrian colonists live there. Your evacuation ships can save maybe 2 billion before the Devourers arrive. The math was brutal and simple. Half the population would die. What do you propose? Veltar asked quietly. Chen activated her own display. It showed tactical formations, movement patterns, and attack vectors. The plan was unlike anything the galactic species had ever seen. We do not retreat, she said. We do not evacuate. We make the Devourers come to us, and we destroy them. Suicide, whispered Dexra. Victory, Chen corrected. The Devourers have never faced coordinated resistance because every species they encounter follows the same strategy. Long-range weapons, defensive positions, eventual retreat. We offer something different. The display showed human ships moving in aggressive formations, closing to point-blank range with enemy vessels. It showed boarding actions, internal combat, and destruction from within. You plan to fight them hand-to-hand? Mirison asked in horror. If necessary, Webb said. Human soldiers are trained for close combat. We carry weapons designed to function in any environment. We can fight in space, underwater, in toxic atmospheres, or inside enemy ships. The aliens looked at each other with growing amazement. These humans spoke of boarding hostile vessels and fighting in environments that would kill most species. They planned to turn space combat into personal warfare. There is something else you should know, Chen said. She paused, studying the faces around the table. The Devourers are not heading for Kepler 442 by accident. We led them there. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several council members stood up, their forms showing extreme agitation. You led them to our colonies? Zareth demanded. We have been tracking their main fleet for weeks, Chen explained calmly. Using fake distress signals and abandoned ships, we guided them toward a system we chose. Kepler 442 has the defensive advantages we need. 4 billion lives are at risk, Dexmo rustled angrily. 4 billion lives were already at risk, Chen shot back. The Devourers would have reached your territory eventually. This way we choose where to fight them. She stood up, her presence commanding the room's attention. You can evacuate your people if you wish. Run to another system and wait for the Devourers to find you there. Or you can stand with us and end this threat permanently. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Counselor Yithra spoke. His species had lost 3 worlds to the Devourers in the past century. What would you need from us? Chen's smile was sharp and confident. Everything you have. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier willing to fight. But most importantly, we need you to trust us. She looked around the table, meeting each alien's eyes. For 3,000 years you have fought the Devourer's war by their rules. It is time to fight a human war by human rules. High Counselor Zarath closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her expression was resolved. Tell us, your plan, Captain Chen. Outside the viewing port, the combined fleet moved through space. Human warships took positions alongside alien vessels, two completely different approaches to interstellar warfare preparing to work together. In 66 hours, they would either save 4 billion lives or join the 13 fallen civilizations. For the first time in galactic history, the outcome was not predetermined. The humans had brought something new to the galaxy, the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The war room aboard the Harmony's Edge had been transformed overnight. Where once stood a peaceful conference chamber, now military officers from a dozen species worked around holographic displays showing ship movements, weapon ranges, and tactical projections. The air hummed with tension and barely controlled fear. At the center of it all, Captain Chen stood before the massive tactical display. The Kepler 4A42 system rotated slowly in the air above them, showing 4 planets, 17 moons, and countless asteroids. Red markers indicated the approaching Devourer fleet. Status report, Chen commanded. Commander Veltar stepped forward, his forearms manipulating multiple data tablets. Long-range sensors confirmed Devourer emergence in 36 hours. Fleet composition: 47 major vessels, estimated 200 escort craft. The numbers sent murmurs of despair through the assembled officers. The largest battle fleet in galactic history had numbered maybe 30 ships. The Devourers were bringing more than 8 times that force. Zephyrian evacuation status, Chen continued. Evacuation ships have removed 1.7 billion colonists, reported Captain Hicksta, her crystalline form sparkling with stress. Transport capacity limits prevent additional evacuations before enemy arrival. Chen nodded grimly. More than 2 billion people remained on Kepler 442b, unable to escape before the Devourers arrived. The traditional galactic response would be to write them off as acceptable losses. Allied fleet status? Colonel Webb answered from his position at the weapons analysis station. Combined fleet, 41 vessels, 17 Zephyrian cruisers, 8 Miran bioships, 6 Dexrin crystal hulls, 3 Thexan Grove ships, and 7 human warships. The disparity was sobering. 41 ships against more than 200. Even accounting for the typically larger size of Allied vessels, they were vastly outnumbered. High Counselor Zarath moved closer to the display. Captain Chen, I must ask again. Are you certain this battle can be won? The mathematics seem impossible. Chen manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the outer system where the Devourers would emerge. Mathematics assume equal capabilities. The Devourers have never fought an enemy like us. She highlighted specific points in the system: asteroid fields, gas giant rings, and orbital manufacturing stations. Traditional galactic tactics focus on long-range engagement and gradual retreat. You try to hurt them from a distance, then fall back when they close. It is the only logical approach, said Admiral Quenra of the Miran fleet. His jellyfish-like form pulsed with confusion. Close-range combat with Devourers is suicide. Is it? Chen asked. She activated a new display showing previous Devourer attacks. Study their tactics. They advance in formation, absorbing long-range fire. They adapt their defenses to counter energy weapons. They consume disabled ships to strengthen themselves. The gathered officers watched recordings of 13 different battles, all following the same pattern. Alien fleets fired from maximum range, fell back under pressure, and eventually scattered when their weapons proved ineffective. But look at this, Chen said, highlighting a specific moment. During the Battle of Trixon Prime, a damaged Zephyrian cruiser collided with a Devourer ship. The explosion destroyed both vessels. An accident, Veltar said. The cruiser's crew was already dead. An opportunity, Chen corrected. The Devourers have never encountered deliberate ramming attacks because no species has ever tried them. They have never faced enemies willing to sacrifice individual ships for tactical advantage. Colonel Webb stepped forward. Human military doctrine is based on calculated sacrifice. We accept losses if they lead to victory. This gives us options the Devourers have never encountered. The alien officers looked uncomfortable. The concept of deliberately sacrificing ships and crews violated their fundamental beliefs about warfare. There is more, Chen continued. She zoomed in on the Devourer fleet composition. Look at their formation, identical to every previous attack. Large vessels in the center, smaller escorts in a protective screen, supply ships in the rear. Standard tactical arrangement, noted Captain Hicksta. Predictable tactical arrangement, Chen countered. They use the same formation every time, because it has always worked. No enemy has ever forced them to adapt their basic strategy. She manipulated the display to show overlapping fields of fire and defensive zones. The escort screen is designed to stop long-range attacks, but it leaves gaps here, here, and here. Red lines appeared in the hologram, showing narrow corridors through the Devourer defensive formation. Gaps too small for traditional attack runs, Admiral Quenra observed. No sensible commander would risk ships in such tight spaces. Human commanders would, Webb said with a grim smile. Our ships are built for close combat. Our pilots are trained to fly through hostile fire. We can thread those gaps. Chen activated another display showing human ship specifications. The warships were smaller than most galactic vessels but far more heavily armored. Their weapons were short-ranged but devastatingly powerful. Phase 1 of the battle plan, Chen announced. Allied forces engage at maximum range using standard tactics. This makes the Devourers confident and maintains their predictable formation. She highlighted the human fleet position, initially held in reserve behind the Allied formation. Phase 2. Human ships execute breakthrough maneuver. We punch through their escort screen and engage their capital ships at point-blank range. The hologram showed human vessels accelerating through the Devourer formation like missiles, their paths threading between enemy ships. Phase 3. Close combat and boarding actions. Human Marines breach enemy hulls and plant demolition charges in critical systems. The alien officers stared in shock. The humans planned to physically board Devourer ships and fight the creatures inside their own vessels. Impossible, breathed Counselor Thexmo. No organic being can survive inside a Devourer ship. The atmosphere is toxic, the gravity fields are unstable, and the creatures themselves are deadly, Chen finished. Yes, we know. Human Marines train for exactly these conditions. Webb activated a new display showing human soldiers in heavy combat armor. The suits were massive, more like small vehicles than clothing. They bristled with weapons and life support systems. Mark 7 assault armor, Webb explained. Self-contained life support, integrated weapon systems, and enough firepower to level a city block. Our Marines can fight in vacuum, toxic atmospheres, or crushing gravity. But the Devourers adapt, Miracent protested. They learn from each encounter. Even if you succeed once, they will counter your tactics. Chen's smile was predatory. They can adapt to energy weapons and sophisticated technology. Can they adapt to a human with an axe? She brought up footage of human Marines training. The soldiers fought with a bewildering variety of weapons. Not just advanced energy rifles, but also crude chemical explosives, edged weapons, and even simple clubs. Human infantry carries backup weapons from throughout our technological history, Webb explained. If their energy rifle fails, they use a chemical projectile weapon. If that fails, they use explosives. If those fail, they use a knife. And if the knife fails? Asked Veltar. Then they use their fists, Chen said simply. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans prepared for combat by assuming all their technology would fail. They trained to fight with the most primitive weapons imaginable. There is one more element to our plan, Chen said. She manipulated the display to show the gas giant Kepler 442c with its extensive ring system. The Devourers will pursue damaged ships into the rings, trying to consume them. We use this against them. The hologram showed a complex maneuver where human ships would appear to retreat into the ring system, leading Devourer pursuers into a trap. The rings contain millions of metallic asteroids, Webb explained. Perfect for creating an improvised minefield. We scatter the asteroids with precisely timed explosions, turning the entire ring system into a weapon. Admiral Quenra pulsed with amazement. You would destroy an entire planetary ring system? We would use it, Chen corrected. Humans excel at turning our environment into a weapon. High Counselor Zarath studied the complete battle plan. It was unlike anything in galactic military history. Aggressive, unpredictable, and seemingly suicidal. But it was also the first plan that offered hope of victory. What do you need from our forces? She asked. Exactly what you do best, Chen replied. Long-range precision fire to keep their escorts busy, electronic warfare to disrupt their communications, and when we breach their formation, you follow us in and finish what we start. She looked around the room at the assembled officers. For 3,000 years, the Devourers have fought the same battle over and over. They expect you to retreat. They expect you to fight from a distance. They expect you to eventually run. Her voice hardened. They do not expect you to charge. Outside the war room, the combined fleet had taken position in the outer system. Human warships moved with aggressive precision, while alien vessels maintained their traditional formations. In 34 hours, the Devourers would arrive to find something unprecedented in galactic history, an enemy that refused to retreat. Commander Veltar remained in the war room after the briefing ended, studying the tactical display. The human plan violated every principle of sensible warfare. It was aggressive where logic demanded caution, simple. Space around Kepler 442 erupted in brilliant flashes as the Devourer fleet emerged from dark space. The sight struck terror into the hearts of every alien officer who witnessed it. Massive biomechanical constructs, each one the size of a city, materialized in perfect formation. Their hulls pulsed with absorbed energy from consumed worlds, and their weapons charged with power stolen from dead civilizations. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the enemy fleet. Through the main display, around her human officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. No one spoke above a whisper. No one showed fear. Enemy fleet composition confirmed, reported Lieutenant Commander Torres. 47 capital ships, 218 escorts, estimated crew complement of 50 million individual Devourers. The numbers would have sent any sane commander fleeing. Chen smiled. Allied fleet status? All ships report ready for combat, came the reply from Communications Officer Park. Zephyrian forces are maintaining maximum range engagement distance. Moran bioships have charged their primary weapons. Dexran crystal hulls are synchronized for coordinated fire. Across the system, the combined Allied fleet had arranged itself according to traditional galactic doctrine, ships spread in a defensive line, weapons pointed toward the approaching enemy, ready to begin the familiar dance of long-range combat and gradual retreat. The Devourers responded exactly as expected. Their formation tightened, escort ships moving to protective positions while the capital vessels prepared to absorb incoming fire. They had done this hundreds of times before. Admiral Quenra reports ready to begin Phase 1, Park announced. Chen nodded. Tell him to commence firing. Make it look desperate. The first energy beams lanced across space, brilliant streams of destructive force that had taken centuries to perfect. They struck Devourer shields and hull armor, creating spectacular explosions that lit up the darkness and accomplished almost nothing. The Devourers advanced steadily through the barrage, their adaptive shields adjusting to counter each new frequency. Their hulls absorbed the energy, converting it to power their own systems. Within minutes, they were visibly stronger than when the battle began. Just like always, muttered Colonel Webb from his position at the tactical station. They eat everything we throw at them. On the communication channels, alien voices grew increasingly desperate. Ships reported weapon ineffectiveness. Captains requested permission to fall back to secondary positions. The traditional battle was proceeding according to 3,000 years of precedent. Chen watched the Devourer formation approach. Their escorts maintained perfect positioning, screening the capital ships from potential attack. Their movements were precise, economical, confident, predictable. Human fleet status? She asked. All ships ready, reported Commander Jackson from the Defiant. Marines are in drop pods. Demolition charges are armed. We're ready to make some noise. Through the tactical display, Chen watched the invisible countdown timer. The Devourers had to advance another 12 million kilometers before reaching the optimal position. The Allied fleet had to maintain their ineffective barrage for another 18 minutes. Then everything would change. "Captain," Torres called out, "Admiral Quenra is requesting permission to begin Phase 2 early. His ships are taking significant damage." Chen studied the tactical display. 3 Miran bioships showed hull breaches. A Dexran crystal hull was venting atmosphere. The Allied fleet was being systematically dismantled by long-range Devourer fire. "Tell him to hold position," she ordered. "Timing is critical." On the display, she could see human ships holding position behind the Allied formation. To outside observers, they looked like reserves being held back from the slaughter. The Devourers had probably dismissed them as irrelevant, primitive vessels that would flee once the real fighting began. They were about to learn otherwise. "Range to target?" Chen asked. 11.7 million kilometers and closing. The go. Devourer formation was perfect now. Capital ships in the center, escorts spread in a protective screen exactly as their tactical doctrine demanded. The gaps Webb had identified were clearly visible, narrow corridors between overlapping fields of fire. "Captain Chen," came Admiral Quenra's voice over the communication channel. "We cannot maintain this position much longer. Request immediate. Permission to retreat to secondary defensive line." Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. Every human officer was watching her, waiting for the order that would either save the galaxy or doom them all. "All human ships," she announced over the fleet channel. "This is Indomitable. Execute breakthrough maneuver. Repeat, execute breakthrough now." The response was immediate. 7 human warships broke formation simultaneously, accelerating directly toward the Devourer fleet. Their fusion drives blazed like miniature stars as they pushed their engines far beyond safe limits. The effect on both Allied and enemy forces was electric. Allied ships stopped firing in shock as the primitive human vessels charged straight into certain death. The Devourers hesitated for crucial seconds, their coordination disrupted by an enemy response they had never encountered. "All power to engines," Chen commanded. "Weapons to maximum charge. This is what we came for." The Indomitable led the charge, her heavy armor gleaming under the light of weapons fire. Around her, 6 other human ships maintained perfect formation, despite the increasingly desperate fire from Devourer escorts. "Incoming missiles," Torres reported. 63 biological interceptors. "Point defense systems active," Webb replied calmly. "Engaging with all defensive batteries." The space around the human fleet erupted in explosions, as point defense lasers and anti-missile systems worked desperately to clear a path. Several interceptors got through, striking the destroyer Houston and the frigate Perth. Both ships shuddered under the impact, but maintained course. "Hull breach on Houston," Park announced. "They're sealing compartments and continuing advance." Chen felt pride surge through her chest. This was what human crews were trained for, fighting through damage that would cripple other species, maintaining mission focus even when death seemed certain. "Range to breakthrough point?" she asked. 4 million kilometers. Devourer escorts are beginning evasive maneuvers. The enemy formation was starting to come apart as individual captains tried to avoid the charging human ships. Escort vessels moved to intercept, leaving gaps in their protective screen. "There!" Webb shouted, highlighting the tactical display. "Corridor Delta is opening." Chen could see it, a narrow passage between 2 massive Devourer escorts, leading directly to their capital ships. The gap would only last seconds before the escorts adjusted position. "All ships, follow Indomitable through Corridor Delta. Weapons free on all targets." The human fleet compressed into a tight formation, 7 ships threading through a gap barely wide enough for one. They flew through overlapping fields of fire that should have destroyed them, their armor ablating, under tremendous energy discharges. The cruiser Lexington took a direct hit that vented half her crew compartments. She maintained position. The destroyer Manila suffered engine damage that reduced her speed by 30%. She maintained position. The frigate Darwin's entire port weapon array was blown away by a plasma bolt. She maintained position. And then, they were through. The Devourer capital ships loomed ahead like metal mountains, their hulls bristling with weapons and conversion pods. At this range, their adaptive defenses were useless. Human kinetic weapons could punch through any armor at point-blank distance. All ships concentrate fire on the lead capital ship, Chen commanded. Marines, prepare for boarding action. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Railgun rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed punched through. Devourer hull armor like paper. Fusion torpedoes detonated inside enemy ships, turning their own absorbed energy against them. For the first time in recorded galactic history, Devourers were taking significant damage. Direct hit on their command. Structure, reported Torres. The lead ship is losing power, but the Devourers were not defenseless. Secondary batteries turned on the human fleet, pouring devastating fire into ships already damaged by their breakthrough run. The Perth exploded in a brilliant fireball, taking her entire crew with her. The Darwin, crippled by previous damage, was caught by a conversion beam and began dissolving at the molecular level. Her captain activated the self-destruct rather than let his ship be consumed. 2 ships lost, Webb reported grimly. 5 ships remaining, Chen replied. More than enough. All vessels execute boarding protocol. What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries. The remaining human ships moved to physical contact with Devourer vessels, their armored hulls grinding against alien metal. Cutting, charges blew holes in enemy armor, and assault pods launched directly into the breaches. Human Marines in powered armor poured into Devourer ships like an invasion force. They fought through twisted corridors filled with toxic atmosphere and unstable gravity fields. They battled creatures that had consumed entire civilizations, using weapons that ranged from fusion rifles to simple combat knives. Marines report. Successful penetration of targets Alpha through Echo, Park announced. Demolition teams are placing charges in critical systems.